Thanks for
And
having
there's
me.
that awkward. Do you know the thing I loved about the coronavirus was all the famous people who suddenly had to learn how to stream, right? And then they'd always have that awkward at the end where there's like, where's the button? I think someone should compile a whole heap of those, make a compilation video of celebrities not like, learning how to turn things on and off. But
Well, did you just see they came out with, remember how the celebrities did Imagine? They just did their new version of about how they're sorry for being white and we're very sorry. We will never let anyone make jokes. We will never do, and it cuts from one person's accents. It's black and white too, in case you didn't, they really hammer in
they are
the
so far. I
theme.
think in Australia that would be called Up Yourself. They're so far up their own
Oh,
arm.
here we are. 1 second. Let me just
Okay, so you can share the video now.
thing. Oh my God, I'm like a grandpa.
What?
I'm so bad. I'm old. I'm just like so bad at all the tech stuff.
I'm older than you are.
Yeah, but I'm like gay 70.
Sorry?
I'm like gay 70 though.
Oh, okay. Is that a different?
Like
do you guys
dog
age
years.
differently? Do you?
Yeah, it's like dog years.
I did not know that. It's already educational. So, hello everybody. This is Mike. I think most of the people that are going to be watching this are going to be your people. So what I'm going to do is let you introduce yourself. For those who don't know me, I'm Taya, and this is my new podcast /show / whatever the fuck this is. It's called Verboten. For those that are familiar with the culture wars will know why it's called that, especially in light of recent events in recent weeks. So let's just kick on. So tell us about you, Mike.
Oh, let's see. I'm like a writer, artist. I do some film stuff. I have a YouTube channel. I've been very involved with what's called the walkaway movement of people leaving the left and the Democratic Party here in the U.S. So yeah, people say I'm like a culture warrior, but I'm like a reluctant one. I never sought that out. I never intended to be. But what I think is crazy is that years ago when I started realizing these things, because I was always a, typical liberal Democrat. But when I started realizing these things, just saying the most simple things was apparently so controversial nowadays, like, what do you mean there are 97 genders? No, there aren't. Or just stating facts of like, what do you mean there's a wage gap between the sexes? That's been illegal since 1963.
Yeah.
But you can't say, but these are just things that are true but unsayable for some reason. So I had no idea when I started doing this of how how crazy it would be.
Yeah. And so you were active in politics, or was it something that was a passing interest, or was it just by way of being in the in a community that became political? I mean, how did you end up interested?
I'm not sure. I wouldn't say I was always really interested in it. I wouldn't say that I was like active. I mean, I volunteered for Obama 2008 and all that, and like no, but I was like super active. But I was always sort of just interested in politics.
Yeah. Okay. And so, how long ago did you sort of wait? Well, okay, what prompted this? There's usually an event. There's usually for some people it's a creep. Some people it's just death by 1,000 paper cuts, and for others there's just an event, right? So that seems to be the two ways in which you end up having that thread pulled.
I think it was kind of both for me, actually.
Okay.
It was sort of like life experience and different things that I had gone through that showed me just how hypocritical these people are. And then suddenly, especially because I used to sing in rock bands and stuff when I was growing up. And like, so coming from that world, seeing how all of a sudden how psychotically politically correct everybody was coming, that you could not say a word without somebody finding some twisted offense in it. Like I remember, like towards the end of the time that I was around those social justice warrior types, just every day was something else. Every day was them finding offense in something else,
When was this, roughly?
Like probably like 2015, 2016 about. It was sort of like a process, I think. Yeah. Because there was still a period of about like at least a year or so, especially during the election in 2016, where I couldn't stand all the politically correct social justice warrior stuff, but I was still a Democrat and still a liberal. And even today, I don't consider myself a conservative at all. But
Did you just
I
think
think
that
there
it
are.
was kids being dickheads? We can swear on my podcast, by the way.
Oh fuck yeah!
Was it
Yay!
just kids being
I've
dickheads?
I've got the mouth of a fucking truck driver, so when I go on ones that they're like, "Ooh, you can't," I'm like biting
No,
my
no,
nails. I'm like, I know I'm
I
gonna say
swear a
something.
lot. It's fine. So,
Good.
but it was it just did you just go, oh, our kids? Did you just sit there,
No, because I think
dumb people?
no,
Did you write it
I
off that in any way, or did you
no, because
see?
I saw the writing on the wall.
Okay, that's interesting.
I
So,
could because the things, especially once I started learning more about it, and once I started to see the darkness of behind their pretty words and all of their veils that they keep on things, you see the ugly inside of it. Like there was one I remember in like 2015, 2016. I remember
is this
reading
online
about how
or in
was it
person? Are these
both, I guess.
both? Okay.
Yeah, because it was like all my friends, that I was everybody that I was
Yeah,
around.
yeah. So just your friends,
Um,
yeah. Okay.
yeah. So yeah, like I remember one thing reading about how this college was going to have segregated dorms, but instead of calling that segregation, they call it a safe space or something. And I'm like, wow, we are arguing for segre-fucking-gation.
So you saw that
And I think, and
early.
that was the time that it was a big term that everybody was using. They were calling it the regressive left, which I think was needed at that time to sort of
Mm.
differentiate between the two. And it was the perfect term for it because that is what their
Oh,
beliefs are. They're regressive.
yeah. I think we're seeing that now. How racist this whole
Yeah.
thing is.
Well, and the big thing for me too is that with all of these things that have been happening over the past couple of years, who is this helping? Who is one person that's better off? Who is one
Yeah.
group that's getting along better with another group? Who is this advancing? No one. I mean,
The same people.
racial relations are the worst. Yeah, exactly. Racial relations are the worst that they've ever been in our lifetimes. Men and women hate each other and at each other's throats. LGBT people are more angry and more bitter than they've ever been in their entire lives. It seems like they don't even realize that they are living in the easiest, freest, most accepting time in human fucking history to be an LGBT person. And they're furious and they're angry and they're bitter and they're oppressed and they're victims. And so this ideology only destroys. I don't see where it's helping, but what they do, and the left has a long history of doing this, and so does the Democratic Party, that they will either create problems or exacerbate problems, and then they tell us that we are not allowed to even speak of those problems. It's racist, it's homophobic, whatever, to try and
We're
solve them, to
stupid.
try to make things better. Yeah, it's kind of genius. I mean, they are definitely evil geniuses.
Well, I have a slightly different view, which is that I believe, because I am somebody, I'm a political scientist, so I do know where I guess some of these things come from, right? And what I actually see is that this is more like a cult that has taken
Yes.
from it's taken from everything, from legitimate problems and legitimate issues,
Yeah,
and it's bastardized it. Like cults will take, Scientology takes psychology and self-improvement
yep.
and therapy. That
And it's all about
and
step one is all about,
it's
don't
yeah,
get off drugs, don't do drugs, improve yourself,
yeah, which
self-help.
is
It's
good.
great at
Yeah,
step one,
yeah,
just like
exactly.
this is solve racism,
Yeah,
equality for all.
yeah. So social justice is to woke is to social justice, like Scientology is to self-improvement, right? I've
Yeah.
said that a few
My
times, right?
my
So
friend Carter, who hosts this show on Safe Space, says if social justice were justice, you know what it would be called?
justice.
Justice.
Yeah. It's more of a reparations.
Yeah.
But
It's more like social revenge.
so what's it like? So for Australians, because obviously what we're seeing is off the back of George Floyd, we see people having very important conversations about like Indigenous lives here. Okay. So a lot of Australian stuff is downwind from America because American culture is just so dominant worldwide, right? So things that
Yeah.
travel, and I think that online, when an event in America happens that's uniquely American, right? I know that sounds odd, but this idea with colonialism, right, being a global thing, but it's actually something that a lot of the thinking is borrowed from the quite unique situation in America. and the very, the racial tensions and stuff like that.
Yeah.
They're different problems, right? I know that these are probably
Mhm.
controversial things to talk about, but for the
They shouldn't
average
be.
Australian to understand what it's like to live in America pre-social justice but post-civil rights movement, you know what I mean? Like, do you feel that you made progress? I mean, I can't.
At what point? I mean,
Mm.
before, I think the progress is getting undone now, because I grew up in like the '90s and the early 2000s, and for me, I think the period between OJ and Obama, I think, was like the golden age of racial relations.
Mm.
Because when I grew up, it was, oh, don't judge people for the race, treat everyone equally, racism is bad, but it wasn't this constant thing that everybody was worried about. And I'm from New York City, so I grew up in Manhattan. All the schools I went to were like probably 50-50 black, white,
Mm.
and everyone just got along. You never heard any of this shit. It was so, and now, now I see articles from the high school that I went to where they're having walkouts for white supremacy, which is, it's already like a friggin' far left school. And it's just insane. So I think by every measure, we are worse off because of this stuff.
Mm.
I've been saying a lot, but I remember, when I was in kindergarten, the teacher cracked open a white egg and cracked open a brown egg, and look, we're all the same on the inside.
Yeah.
Today, it would be like the white egg is rotten from the inside out and wants to destroy the brown egg, and we're all worse off for that. I think. Look at like you keep saying, just look at the results of this ideology.
Yeah.
And so, but they've made sure that it is so taboo to say, hey, this approach isn't working. Maybe let's try a different approach.
Yeah. Well, that's
but
what
if you say that, you're right. Oh, you're racist. You're racist.
Oh, well, I that's what I find odd, and I have done a rant quite a few times because I used to work in child protection as a young graduate, right? I was a child protection worker, welfare worker, and
oh wow,
yeah. So child welfare, right? Hard job, and
it sounds it.
I think I can see how toxic this ideology is, mostly because when you're on the ground helping, nobody cares. They care that they're getting the help. You know what I mean? Like, I know that, and to add in a power dynamic to something that used to be a caring and compassionate one, right? Even if it wasn't perfect, right? And I actually said, well, that's really weird. And that was sort of my first twig that this was not quite right, because it didn't match what I thought I was doing, right?
Well, that's the thing, is that this ideology has just taken a chokehold of everything. It's in your field, it's in my field, it's in entertainment, it's in culture, it's in schools, it's in, you have kindergarten kids who are being taught this shit, or being taught, there was a story in New York about kindergartners being taught about their white privilege and all that, and then the kids go home crying, telling their parents, oh, I'm a bad person. Yeah. It's sick. And what they do not realize, and here's why, once, not to sound all conspiratorial, but once you get into the flip side of it and realize, these are, are you familiar with Occam's razor, where they say don't assume malice?
Yeah.
Or they say don't assume malice when stupidity
is Hanlon's law.
But the thing about stupid people, so assume away all the friggin' malice you want. Realize the flip side of this and realize who benefits from more racism, who benefits from blacks and whites arguing for all of eternity. They do. So I because for every action there's a reaction. So there's going to be a rebellion to all of this, to people saying, to white people on their knees washing people's feet, and white kids in school being taught how horrible they are. And the people who will most benefit from this are actual racists.
Yeah. Well, that's what I've heard. What I find interesting is that the narcissism of small differences that we've had and disagreements that we've had with various people in, the sort of non-SJW.
I love that saying, the narcissism of small differences.
Yes.
Ooh,
have you heard of that term before? It's Freud. It's a Freudian concept. The narcissism of small differences. It explains tribalism and why the left split over, like, the biggest fights in socialism are over minor things. Like, if you know the history of the left, right? It's the biggest splits. It's like with the famous internet wars, right? The biggest wars are always over the smallest things.
Yeah.
Right?
That's very true. Yeah,
it's so true. So that's actually a concept. But So the thing, what was I going to say there? I can't remember.
Small differences. They're
Oh,
making more
where
people racist.
everybody has a unanimous view right now. Most people who've been sort of questioning this sort of wokeness, right? I don't like using SJW just because I don't like that pejorative. It just has too much baggage. I know Kerry uses it and other people, but I just go still a little bit.
Yeah, I get that.
We
I
don't
feel like
have a good word for it yet.
identitarian is one I think is pretty useful.
Yeah,
I half agree that I think it's almost, I feel like it's almost too flattering of a term for them.
yeah.
It's not nasty enough, I think. But I understand why people use it because I feel like there had
Mm,
to be a word to correctly identify this instead
mm.
of just lumping it in with all liberals.
Yeah. Well, I call it wokeism.
Mm,
But I'm increasingly calling it left totalitarianism because
yeah,
it's sort of totalitarianism 3.0.
yeah.
What we're seeing.
I think they're
Um,
just they're identitarians,
yeah,
and
yeah,
it's as toxic as any other form of identitarianism.
yeah, yeah. And but anyway, so when did you? So what led up to you? Because the reason why I want to speak to you in particular is because I have, I believe that a lot of Twitter bans, a lot of suspensions is algorithmic, right? However,
Mhm.
you seem to be singled out and picked on. You, Megan Murphy, and a handful of others seem to be sort of made an example of, right? So, can you? And it's just shit. The
Yeah,
fact that I don't understand why you've been singled out. So, can you just sort of
I
talk
don't
about the
either.
lead up to this and what led to you being on par with Alex Jones and
Yeah, but not on par with David Duke, not on par with Louis Farrakhan because they're all still on Twitter.
yeah,
Louis
and all the
Farrakhan,
people
Richard
calling J.K.
Spencer.
Rowling a cunt, they're still on there, right?
Oh yeah, people who
Yeah,
pedophiles are on there, murderers
yeah,
are on
yeah.
there, but just don't have any center right opinions.
Mm.
Um, so I guess how this started was late last year. I think it was around October or something. One day I was permanently banned from Twitter. And I think that it was coincidental because the day before was International Pronoun Day. So I was giving my thoughts on that, but it was, I was nothing but civil. I said some things that are objectively true. There was nothing that they could nail me on. So the next day I get a thing saying, you've been banned for evading a permanent suspension. I never had a permanent suspension. And I've come to learn, by the way, that has to be code inside the company for not having an official reason to ban someone and making one up, because
Yeah.
I've heard from so many people who that's what took them down, evading a permanent suspension that they never had. So I would bet you anything that Twitter, that's like in company code
Mm.
for we need to get this person. So anyway, I just kept fighting and they kept giving me different reasons. Then the next one they said was, I was managing multiple accounts for abusive purposes. Don't have multiple accounts, don't abuse people. Then the third reason they gave me, they dug up some tweet from months prior where this woman was being attacked by all these leftist journalists because she posted a picture with her children. And they were like, oh, how could you post their children in cages? Your children, they're not in cages. Monster. So I defended
Sorry,
her.
what was that?
Children in cages. Her children aren't in cages.
Hang
So
on.
they were very upset.
They were upset because the children weren't. Sorry, hang on. What was this?
How can you? They were. Remember how people were flipping out about children in cages?
Yeah, yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
So they were like, how could you post a picture when there are children in cages and your
Oh,
children
okay. So
aren't
the
in
whataboutism
cages?
stuff.
Yeah,
Okay.
to protect your privilege.
So, like saying that
Um,
women matter is about another group, that sort of thing,
yeah,
for example. Yeah.
yeah.
Mm.
So I defended her to one of them, and I was like, "Oh my God, she loves her kids. Burn the witch." So that was much better.
Okay. And that was
Then they get me on that, and that's my abuse and targeted harassment. Then they changed from that and said it was targeted harassment. They wouldn't say what. So I just kept getting a million different reasons.
yeah.
But so anyway, what's interesting, I think, too, is because, yeah, a lot of people have said the same thing to me that, oh, it must be some sort of glitch or error. it's amazing how these errors never happen to leftists. Because, my entire life that I had Twitter when I was just a typical generic liberal Democrat, not one ban, not one suspension, not one error. So there's a Twitter hotline, which is useless. It doesn't do anything. But they have the thing where it's like, if you know your party's extension, enter it. And I just tried every number. I just entered every single possible number for weeks. I would keep a list because I was determined.
That's
and I'm
funny.
psychotic. So by about like 1,000 something, I hit on one. And it was the president of diversity and inclusion.
Okay. How did that go?
So I said my name and she slammed the phone and never picked up again.
Oh.
I actually should try that again now that I'm bad again. But anyway, so it took me like 6 months. I finally fought it and beat them, and I won because there were people on Twitter who were like taking credit for getting me banned and said that they were like, yeah, get every LGBT Republican banned.
At some point.
Yeah, I was doxxed too, and they claimed responsibility for having me doxxed and all this, which is a crime.
What opinions did you hold? So just for those who don't know who you are, what's your crime? Right? What's the forbidden thoughts that that have gotten you?
Oh, there are two genders is a big one. I do not buy into all the non-binaries and the zims and zers and the they thems, or a lot of which is funny because I actually very much support transgender people, but those people aren't transgender, and it's a sleight of hand trick when they call them transgender to try and give these ridiculous people more legitimacy. So yeah, that's a big one. All the gender ideology, which is ridiculous. The untouchable, the women's sports. That's beyond untouchable. So yeah, that's a big one. Trump is not Hitler. That's unacceptable.
Well, the thing is, you could actually agree that Trump is a terrible person, and still find him funny, and even that is a problem, right?
Yeah. Anything, any sort of even just
I can appreciate Trump even if I don't like it, right?
Yeah. Even having like one nuanced thought on him, and that must be just like such a comforting fantasy land to live in. I mean, that must be so nice to think that's what. Is. Well, I mean, they're all angry to think about it, to be able to. No, it is, but don't you find it to be like so comforting to be able to just pin every problem in the world, all the world's ills, everything wrong in the world on one person. And it's evil orange man. It's no one else. It's not you, certainly. It's nothing anyone else is doing. It's just this one horrible person. And they just pin all the world's problems on him. Yeah. Yeah. He is just the personification of the white man, of everything, of every evil in the world. So
sorry,
yeah,
my phone went off. Sorry about that. I don't know if that came through. There we go.
No, so but these are just things that you're not allowed to say.
Yeah, yeah.
But so with Twitter though, I eventually when that all happened, that like gave me a little bit of leverage. So I went through the Better Business Bureau and finally.
Did that angle work at all? Did the Better Business? So for those, it
didn't at first, because I got.
Oh, sorry. I just want to explain for those that might be watching. If you get banned from Twitter, there's a lot of people there's no real recourse, right? So let's say if you get banned from Twitter, their terms of service say they can ban you for whatever reason anyway, right? So those who've been watching what I've been saying about Megan Murphy being banned, she's trying to sue Twitter. There's a number of, but it's a dead end, right? There's no real support. There's no real appeal. And it's almost like an unpersoning of sorts, right? Yeah. And it does feel, I know this might seem silly, like being banned from Twitter, move on. But when you are trying to build an audience or you are trying to network, like it is actually a legitimate networking thing, right? For business and if you're a YouTuber and like people are watching us on there right now. Hopefully I don't get banned by association, but but you get, like this. I think the problem for a lot of people is that they think that this is just Twitter shit. And exactly. And I think if you're on the internet as long as I have, everyone's always been, it's not real life, turn it off. It's not real life, turn it off. Oh, Facebook isn't real. Turn it off. Facebook friends aren't real friends. Online friends aren't real friends. But it is real, okay? And it does actually trickle outwards and upwards,
Yes.
especially when the journalists get a lot of their news from there, right? And a lot of breaking news, and a lot of the conversation is dominated by one group of people. Now, I don't hold conservative views, but I will defend the right to speak them, right? Always. And that's been my fight always, is that when I said this yesterday, which was that if you are burning books, you are my enemy. If you are shunning people, you are my enemy. I don't give a fuck what your belief is, whether you're a Christian, whatever you are. If you're doing the book burning, we're at war, right? That's always been my position.
I like that.
And it doesn't mean I'm right wing. It just means that authoritarians are my enemy, right? And so, and I fought it during 9/11 online against when it happened with the Dixie Chicks, and I'll fight it now, right? With all this banning.
That's the thing. It used to be the right doing this, and now it's just totally flipped.
Yeah.
But no, what I was going to say also is it's not just Twitter, because like you said, these things trickle outwards, and it usually just starts with Twitter. And then next thing you know, people are getting banned from banks and from every website and from Facebook and from everywhere.
And losing their jobs.
I mean,
yeah.
So no, it's just crazy. And the thing is too, I always point out about how people like me, because I've heard from so many people who are sort of like centrist like I am, that are totally banned. Meanwhile, they don't ban because if their excuse is just, hate and fighting hate and all that, why is David Duke on Twitter? Why is Nick Fuentes on Twitter? Why is Louis Farrakhan on Twitter? Why is Richard Spencer on Twitter? Not that I want them banned in any way, but if that's your reason for banning people, shouldn't you maybe start with them and then come for the centrists?
Well,
it's very deliberate.
Were you verified?
No, I'm nobody. Like
that's what I was wondering, because the verification process, they do hide behind that, which is that someone like David Duke or Richard Spencer, they are of public interest, right? So it basically it means they're famous and you're not, and we can do whatever the fuck we want.
So is Alex Jones though? But why Alex Jones and not David Duke? You know?
Yeah.
Or why Milo? Why Milo and not David Duke? You know?
Yeah. Well,
so I think that's just an excuse. But no, I honestly think it's very deliberate. I think it's being set up to where the only views that you can see are either radical leftism or bigotry.
Yeah. Yeah. Or the hot take, the quote take.
Yeah. I think the thing with me is that I don't attack people. I'm not Milo. I'm not, you know, and I think that they don't want.
Sorry. That's what I found interesting about you, was that you don't. And I have a personal, I might hold certain views. I'm gender critical views, right? The same as you, where I'm a feminist, and I say that. Old school feminist, proper feminist, real one, right? Same. But and LGBT ally, you know, what I thought those were, right? Yeah. What I thought I was supporting, crept. The concept creep, and suddenly, suddenly porn is a feminist thing. It's like, well, I'm not judging you for making porn. I'm just saying it's not intellectually consistent with feminism. That makes you a humanist, not a feminist. And I'm starting going, no, but that's not feminism. It doesn't mean I'm not judging you. I'm just saying it's not within that definition, right?
Yeah, well, it's part of this ideology, though, that there's nothing that could ever possibly be bad for you. And that's a great example. Or just as, do all the drugs you want. And that's
perfectly fine and healthy. And yeah.
Which I'm not saying, everything in moderation. However, I'm saying
no, there's no judgment.
Problem. But I think there's clearly a problem when kids are just surrounded by it from the earliest of ages, from every possible angle, and we're going to pretend like that's not a problem.
Yeah.
But nothing could ever be bad for you. Be a hooker, be a sex worker.
Well, this ideology came out of Tumblr fandoms. This is where it came out of, right?
Yeah.
And I didn't know quite what my daughter was reading. I thought she was reading feminism. Because she was like, feminism. Because that's what they did. They hide behind the words, and you go, that's great. I'm so proud of you that you're curious. And then all of a sudden it's I heard there was a rape joke in Big Bang Theory, and therefore I'm not going to watch it. And I go, what the fuck? That's where I started going, what's this thing? She'd be very angry at me for talking about that. Sorry. I shouldn't have said that. But, it's just It does. It changes you. It changes who you are. Like I've
Yeah.
seen people, like when you get a friend that just suddenly goes religious and they sort of lose who they are, right?
Yeah.
And you
It's
start
crazy.
to
Well, I
lose
mean,
your
and look
friend.
how.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the more questions I asked, the more friends I
Mm.
lost and everything. What I was just going to say though about also we were saying about how a lot of people were saying, oh, it's just these kids in schools. Wait
Yeah.
till they get to the
Oh, it's
real
just
world.
evergreen. That's
No,
just
the real
crazy.
world is bent to their will.
Yeah.
Look around right now.
Yeah.
It's every corporation. It's every powerful entity. But anyway, what I was going to say about Twitter though, so I
Mm.
in March I got my account back. And
Yeah.
because I think what their strategy is now is they at first were going after the big people. They were going after the Miles, Alex Joneses, all of them.
Yep.
Now I think they don't want that pushback of going after someone like a Ben Shapiro or someone like that. So they're just, I think, looking at who's growing very quickly and who to prevent you from building a big audience. So I got back on in March, and then about 2 weeks ago, sure enough, I get an email. You are permanently banned for evading a permanent suspension.
It's really weird because you're an
And
anomaly in my understanding of how Twitter works and how the moderation system works, right?
in what way?
In the sense that I think a good chunk of the hate, like the OK Karen, OK Boomer, all of that stuff, it's bots and disinformation and troll farms.
Mm.
Stirring shit. It's not people, right?
Mm.
And fake and spam accounts, and it's all algorithmic, and a lot of it is just there's all of these hundreds of signals that look at an account and go, all right, this is fake. Okay, there's certain patterns that get you suspended, which uses natural language processing. So like that, burn the witch, right? That was a sarcasm, doesn't get picked up.
Well, what was interesting
it had
with
particular aspects to it. Like there's signals, right? Which is it was.
Well, I think with that, they only dug that up about a week after banning me. And two, I looked through it, and literally thousands of people use that expression every day on Twitter, and none of them are banned.
It's actually it's a social score that works in the background. So already you've been mass reported. You're a target, right? So you may have gotten into the naughty corner for 7 hours. The 12-hour ban is always a sign, right? And then that's a signal.
Yeah,
how many people block you is one thing. So if you're stuck on the TERF blocker or the Nazi blocker lists, they use those as a signal to show that you're a toxic account, right? So how many people block you versus you blocking them? If I'm on 72 block lists, if 10,000
I must be on
in the eyes of Twitter, that's like, oh, this person gets blocked a lot. So they abuse block lists that way as well, right?
It's crazy.
And build a CRM around it. Let's not talk about that. But
yeah, well, what's funny is that after
everybody,
once they unbanned me, like a week after they unbanned me, they claimed, oh, it was an error and my account was marked as spam and stuff, which was bullshit.
Yeah.
But so anyway, so that now I was back in March. Now about 2 weeks ago, they banned me again permanently. First, they said evading a permanent suspension, which
so was there?
How can I evade
at that time? I'm just genuinely trying to
No.
You're probably keeping your nose clean.
No, well,
purpose, right?
Exactly. That's the thing. I've always said, like, you can't give these people the gun to shoot you with. Since I got back on, don't be.
Yeah.
People like me cannot be sarcastic or ironic or hyperbolic. So no, I've just been really careful. So anyway, though, so first it was evading a permanent suspension, and I try and I'm going to continue trying, obviously. But then now they are sticking with a new excuse, which is multiple violations of the rules. Won't tell me what they are. Won't cite one tweet, and even in their terms of service, it says we need to show you which tweets caused you to be banned. Won't do that. So they don't even apply their own rules. So that's the thing is, there really is an element of fraud within Twitter also, because, I mean, think if any other business operated the way they do, that you sign up for a service, it says these are the rules of the service, you can abide by them and break none of these rules, and they still take it away from you.
Platform based on a specific culture and a specific understanding of that Twitter is very much about clapbacks and fun and irony and jokes, and then all of a sudden remove all of the ability to joke from the platform.
Yeah, and even if you do that, you're banned again.
Yeah, and it's bullshit, man. But tell me about what we're going to get to the dark bit, right? The screenshots.
The what?
The doctored screenshots. If
God,
I can to tell people a little bit about the hell that you've been through for
it never ends.
being for questioning the pronoun police.
So this happened, and I wonder if this had any role in it, but this happened maybe like a week before I got banned from Twitter. So a friend of mine, Blair White, if any of you are familiar with her, YouTuber who's transgender, and so they hate her because she challenges all their bullshit. So they've tried so hard to take her down, and she's too big and too popular, they can't do it. So now they were trying to go after her followers and bully, teenagers for following her, just going through people who follow her.
Revolting.
I know. So she decided to disable all her social media briefly because she felt bad that these kids were being threatened and attacked just for following her. So I guess they saw that as an opportunity that, like, oh, she's not here, she can't defend herself. So they photoshopped fake DMs of her using the N-word, which were totally fake. And they did a good job with them too. They had like video screenshots it was well made. So I was literally on a train to go on vacation at the time, and like Blair and I were like talking and stuff. So I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna stare at this thing, and I'm not looking away until I can prove how it's fake. And I finally caught one thing to prove it. That they forgot to put a comma where Instagram would have a comma where it says the time, So I posted it. So I posted on Twitter. I was like, here, see the difference between a real one and this is the fake one. And so everyone could see it is fake. Blair never did this. More lies.
And then they came up with you.
So I'm on vacation at this point. I am on a nice, relaxing getaway upstate, sitting in a hammock, sitting by the campfire, making s'mores. I put my phone away. I'm taking a break. We proved those people wrong. Everything is wonderful. Good night, everyone. I'm going to my room. I go in there. Now they made fake screenshots of me to call me a fucking pedophile. And it was like a fake DM that said, oh, my lawyer, I have a great lawyer. He's gotten me off for child pornography multiple times. And so
it is
I kind of laughed when I first saw that.
It's so, how I often say it's not ha-ha funny. It's fucked up funny.
Yeah. No, I kind of
and
like.
It's not funny when it happens to you, but it's fucked up. Like, it's not, but it's so childish. And the thing that astonishes me the most about all of this is that children are running the show. Idiot children. And it's just like, what the fuck?
Well, I think, I don't know, until I was like, that's ridiculous. Until I started seeing the numbers going up, and it's shared by one person, it's shared by 50 people, 100 people, 200, 300 people.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, fuck.
They're child armies.
And so this was like middle of the night, and I'm like, Jesus, I'm afraid to go to sleep because I don't know what's going to be out there in the morning without me having a chance to respond to it. So I just stay up all night trying to go after every person who's trying to just it's like whack-a-mole. So I found the person who created it, got him to admit in writing that he created it and it is fake, and they don't care. People continued sharing it. And meanwhile, my inbox is climbing, and it's just like death threat, death threat, death threat, death threat. And they just want these things to be true. They need to be able to call you a monster. They need an excuse to hate you. They want to hate you so badly because you're not in their cult. And that's really what was scary, are the people who continued sharing it after all this stuff. And I think it proved a very important point too, because to just make up a lie that a gay guy is a pedophile, I think is the most homophobic thing you could ever do.
Yeah.
Because that's the oldest stereotype of the world. Oh, gay men are
horrifying.
Pedophiles. Yeah. So, but what's interesting is that all of the people doing this, every single one, if you looked at their bio, it said things like queer, non-binary, pronouns, all of this. So it proved what I've always said about these alphabet people, the ones with the letters that come after, LGBT.
Yeah.
They're very homophobic. They view gay people as privileged, which means anything privileged has to be destroyed.
Yeah. James Lindsay, I think, said a couple of weeks ago, this week, that they're wearing legitimate issues like a skin suit.
Yes. That's so true.
It's a bunch of kids,
But
a
meanwhile,
kid in a trench coat, 5 kids on each other's shoulders in a trench coat
oh
playing
God,
adult.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
But meanwhile, all those people like that, all of those people broke about a dozen different Twitter rules. They're all still on Twitter. The person who created those fake screenshots, still on Twitter, and I'm banned. And then Twitter has the audacity to put a rainbow on their thing and talk about how
Yeah.
they're pro LGBT. These people are just the biggest hypocrites in the world.
Yeah, it's so messed up. Are you so you because have you been you're all right on Facebook, yeah? Or have you had
What's
trouble with
that?
Facebook? Have you had trouble with Facebook?
Not as much. I've gotten some really stupid, like temporary things, but I find Facebook to be, at least in my experience, to be not as bad as the
Yeah,
other ones. It's not
they seem
great,
to
but
be a
it's
little bit more.
better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And YouTube?
So YouTube, I mean, I'm demonetized with everything. They suppress my channel. People get unsubscribed. So it's difficult. And this is why it's just so depressing that it's like, it just feels like these people have so much power that there's no beating them. It's not any sort of level playing field. It's not any sort of free market. It feels like no matter what you do, they will make sure that no one can hear you. And I was just saying with a friend the other day, I was like, if you think back years ago, there used to be all this amazing content on YouTube, this of like the sort of like dissident politics and people
Yeah.
who weren't just leftists, and it's a whole spectrum of views. And I said, I was like, most of them are gone now. Like, when was the last time you even discovered a new person on there? Never, because they just make sure that it is so buried, where you can literally type in the video, the exact title of the video, and you won't find it, and you'll have to search. It'll be 20 pages deep.
I've actually found that
So,
like in the last 3 months, because I have YouTube playing while I work during the day, and it just recommends the same things over and over again. And it
CNN,
recommends things
MSNBC,
I've
Fox
already
News.
seen, things that I've already watched, nothing
Yeah.
new. I haven't actually really discovered any real channel other than through like these types of things, where through the like various people and various other places that I watch. If you're a guest on something I already watch, that's how I find you, right? That's really the
Yeah.
only real discovery
Yeah.
engine now is word of mouth.
Or on Twitter or something, and so they
Yeah,
make sure you can't do that.
yeah, and that's why these things are important, because they are important for networking. But
Yeah.
and so how do you actually move forward with this? Because you're trying to do videos and you're trying to do marketing and you're trying to.
You tell me. I have no idea.
Are you on Gap?
No, I should. The thing is, there's so. I wish that
So
we
old.
could just decide on one. I wish we could decide on just like one alternative platform, because there's so many that like.
Yeah.
No, I haven't done that yet. I should. Yeah, it's and then and then that's banned from the App Store.
Yeah.
So
and this is the thing, right? This is the thing for me. I am, and I know technically, I suppose we are the adults now. So I suppose that's our job, is to do this thing, which is to be the adults in the room. I know. I sit there and I go, I can't.
I didn't agree to that.
Find another leader. I don't have any matching socks, man. It's not my job.
Yeah, mine are literally ripped right now.
But at the same time, people, we were talking about this before we started streaming, about how just eerily, and J.K. Rowling mentioned this too, just how stuck and held captive in an abusive relationship with someone that you love. In my case, something that I love, right? Which is, my politics haven't changed, right? I'm still,
they haven't changed very much for me.
I haven't changed my politics
on a couple issues where I didn't know all the full facts.
Yeah, whereas mine are deeply held values.
90% the same.
Yeah, I've deeply held
values exactly.
In my politics. I studied politics at university. All of this stuff, right? I hold it dear, and what I have, it feels like I am clinging. When you see that friend that's in a abusive relationship and they keep going back, a relationship that's bad for them, and they keep going back and letting them be hurt and letting them be hurt and letting them be abused and letting them be gaslit. And I'm on my last thread at the moment, because I keep getting these people tell me that I'm stupid. And that's one of those things where it's like, that is objectively not true. Like there's something where you go, but they act like they know more about it. They're just the smugness. And that's where it comes down to this censorship shit that started to happen. The Gone with the Wind thing pissed me off.
Oh
Because I
God.
actually sat there and I'm
This
like,
is,
how stupid do they think people are that they need to put to explain it for us?
I know. I mean,
And I'm
God,
just
look
like,
around right now. This is like the friggin' red wedding of bannings and cancellations. Everyone's getting fired. Everything's getting canceled. Like, I've never seen anything like this. And the conformity that is going on is just worse than
it's
it's ever
chilling.
been.
And
It
we
really
know
is.
where this leads. If you know your history,
Yep.
the name of this podcast, this is where it leads. And if people don't know about the Hitler Youth, learn about the Hitler Youth or what they did with the youth in China, right? Learn about that, because what happened was one of the first steps with Nazi Germany was that they alienated and weaponized children against their parents, right? And what they would do is use the children as emotional blackmail to get the parents to fall into line, because the love of a parent is pretty fucking strong, right? And
Yeah.
we've seen that with Jonathan Ross this week, where he's backed down a little bit because his daughter's sort of, and no,
Yeah.
I understand that, right? Any parent with a teenager will get that you choose your kid first, right?
Yeah.
But
There was
that's where I
actually,
go, oh
sorry.
shit, this is Hitler Youth shit, man.
Yeah. Even that's what happened in a lot of the communist countries, that
Mhm.
that little kids would be worshipped as heroes
Well,
for
in their
turning in their
parents.
parents. And actually, I can't believe that this wasn't a bigger story, that more people, I feel like most people don't know about this. After this, I'll post about it on my
Yeah.
Facebook, because I wrote about it years ago.
Oh,
It
great.
was maybe like 2 years ago or something. But in Finland, the leftist government in Finland instituted these policies, and they ran an entire ad campaign encouraging children to report their parents to the police if they heard them criticizing politicians.
Mhm. Yeah. That's the first thing they do, because children are, like my recent life in advertising there's a reason why you can't advertise to children, and that there are restrictions around that, because children can't discern fantasy from reality, right? And
Yeah.
this is where I think that I made a mistake, and I've talked about this before, where I made a mistake by evangelizing tech and letting my kids use it too young, and I was too
Mm.
enthusiastic. And I think that if I had them now, older, I probably would have limited their tech consumption
Yeah, I think that's
and
smart.
social media
But
consumption.
it's hard because it's so omnipresent. It's just, we're
Yeah,
so surrounded by it
it's so
that
hard to know
how
what
do you even do that?
But I was
Like,
in all the mummy blogging things and all of the, sharing your life, and I had no idea that this would become a weapon.
one sec.
Yeah.
Charlie, shut up! Sorry. Sorry.
That's
My
fine.
dog is a
It's
pain
great.
in the ass.
I know. We're all human. We're all humans here.
Not him.
Yeah. This is not, it's all good. But I think this is for my crew, right? In Australia, on the left, fucking looking and seeing that Faulty Towers has been removed. Okay. And
Everything.
Little
Well, if you look
Britain
at
has
the
been
UK,
removed. This is,
Little Britain has
we are
been
now
removed.
halfway
In the
down
UK,
the
it's
slippery
everything.
slope. And we were warning you about at the top, and you weren't listening, right?
Mm-hmm.
How awful this mob has been. Mike is a victim of this stuff, right? And I just wanted to really tell Mikey's story, because, I know that this sounds like fucking dumb internet, Twitter. It's not that, right?
Yeah. Because no, this is what's happening around us, and it's just getting people acclimated to more and more and more and more censorship.
Like how quickly do we adjust to wearing masks, for example?
Yup.
And that, I find that crazy, like, just psychologically. Like, I found it very distressing. We're well, probably might have a second wave, but we've all but eradicated the virus here, right? So we're good. But what I found weird, that first couple of weeks where you'd go to the shop and everyone had masks on, and because I'm someone who relies a lot on people's nonverbal cues, because I'm autistic spectrum, I'm used to sort of reading sort of little nonverbal cues to understand people. I found it so unnerving.
It's
and terrifying, and I couldn't understand what people were saying. I was stressed out, and I was like, and everyone's just acting like this is normal.
Yeah.
And I know people just try to pretend like everything's normal to try and, for their sanity. But I think it's okay to turn around to my son and go, he's 11, and I had to say, that this is not normal, right? This is not a normal
Good.
way to live, and that it's not okay to live this way, right? You have to have that
Good.
conversation with the kids and say, this is not normal. We're heading into a terrifying time, right? And so, like, I have those conversations with my kids, but I don't think a lot of people are.
No,
They
I
say to
think
their
that's
kids,
what's
this is
really
not
scary.
normal.
No,
This is
and I was saying this whole thing was a giant fucking compliance test, because look how quickly it went from don't wear masks to you have to wear
Yeah.
masks.
And
And
if you turn around
everyone,
and said, hang on, but the science isn't settled, I'm not sure, or asking questions, deleted.
yep,
It wasn't even
and
spreading the
banned.
information, right? It was actually just asking a question. And that was another thing that I kind of changed my mind, because I'm not a douchebag, right?
Well, I am,
I'm just
but
not a
I'm
douchebag.
offended on behalf of the
I'll
douchebag
wear a mask if it's the
population.
right thing to do, and I feel and I weigh up the risks and all of those things. And you know, that's my thing. That's my frustration with these people, or the whether it's authoritarians on the left or the right, whoever they are, right? Bossy fucks that tell people what to do,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
They're busybodies.
Yeah.
If you're telling me that you're taking away my agency as a person, and that's something where I go, no, you think I'm dumb.
Hmm.
Like the person who shoves the Bible, those fuckwits that they go, oh, you need to read Judith Butler and then you'll get it. I said, yeah, I've read the Bible. It doesn't mean I'm a Christian.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that you can't suddenly convert someone with one book, you fuckwit. Billy Connolly, do you know the comedian Billy Connolly in the UK? He's got a famous saying, never trust anyone who's only read one book.
Yeah, seriously.
Right.
No, it's insane. And I mean, look how quickly it just vanished overnight.
Yeah.
The coronavirus. And here's what I think is going to happen is that once these protests die down, protests will get tired in a week, maybe 2 weeks.
Has it
And
vanished
then
though, or is it just not being reported?
No,
I'm
well, it
curious
hasn't
to know
yet,
what
but I think
emergency
it
rooms
will.
look like in a week from now.
I think they're going to get tired. They're going to go back to mommy and daddy. And then as soon as it stops, they'll say, oh, second wave of coronavirus, back inside, everyone.
Mm.
And everyone will just do it. That is what drives me crazy, it seems like, with the general population, is that they never learn their lesson. They don't look and see how many times they've, just in the last couple of years, how many times they've been lied to over and over and over and over again by the media, by everyone else.
That was
From
bizarre.
Covington to Jesse Smollett to Russian collusion to Ukraine to the lockdowns to all of this, to even just the numbers on police brutality, because there were 9 unarmed Black people killed last year. This is not an epidemic of people being hunted in the street.
328 million people in America. So I think that for Australians, I think I'm just someone who tends to have a sense of proportion with my thoughts. I'm crazy when I say something, I shout it loud and I swear it, but it comes from a proportionate and well thought out place. So when I do speak, I mean it. Right?
Yeah.
I speak with conviction, but I think it through, right?
Yeah.
But what I'm seeing is a lot of people just talking shit that they don't know anything about.
Yeah.
And that's been frustrating for me, because it's all about, and I think it's just a phenomenon of a lot of people's income is linked to, there's people on Twitter and they have a Patreon and they link it and it's their career. And I go, well, that's a bit hack. It's a bit hack comedy, but I'm not going to penalize you for making a buck. But at the same time, I think you're doing some damage.
How is that different than every channel on TV?
Yeah, exactly.
It's like you have every channel saying
I
the
would never
exact same
begrudge
thing.
anyone trying to make a buck, right? But it needs to be equal. And it needs to be fair and transparent, right? Which is that if I can laugh at a good old Trump roast, like Sarah Cooper makes me laugh, right? And she's a good comedian, but at the same time, it's like, well, you should be equally able to make fun of her, and it needs to be equal, right? And that's the thing that I always just go with. I've always been on the side when I see an injustice or something is unfair, I will just go, no, I'll fight for the fairness, right?
Yeah.
And it's just unfair and wrong.
And I think we just keep, like you said earlier, it's death by 1,000 cuts. We just keep losing more and more and more of our individual autonomy, of our free speech. Most people seem to have no problem with just obeying.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't know. It's really scary. And if you look at the level of control that the left has over people, I
Mm.
mean, it took 3 days for us.
Hypnosis.
What's
It
that?
it is. It does fit like the mind control sort of criteria, right? It's like
I
a
mean,
mass delusion, a mass hypnosis.
if you look at an idea like abolish the police, days ago, that was a
Okay.
ridiculous, insane idea that was maybe less than 1% of the population believed in. It took 3 days for that to become what all your Facebook friends are repeating and what every celebrity is repeating, and now it seems to be on its way to becoming law.
4 legs
3
good,
days it took.
2 legs bad. It's just we're living in Animal Farm, man. It's crazy.
I know. It's insane.
Oh, anyway, how long have we been going for? I don't know. I can't see.
Look at our.
So it does. I just wanted to make it clear. It does feel. I want to talk a little bit more about the abusive relationship side of things. So, because you and I disagree, you've left the left, and I think with quite you're quite a big part of the walk away movement. So in the United States, if you are in, it's a little bit different here because you don't necessarily register to be in a political party here. You know what I mean? It's a little different, right?
Yeah.
In America,
Here you basically have no choice.
yeah, you sort of have to join the tribe from birth, basically. It's sort of
Yeah.
and you sign up and you register, and then you get to vote in the pre-selections for the local elections. There's always an election on in America. That's what's great. It's great and also extremely frustrating. Fewer elections is probably a good idea too. But, more. It's hard to say, but there's always an election on in America. But you identify as you have to sort of identify as Democrat, Republican, or non-binary. Right?
Yeah, that would be me. I'm a political they them.
Yeah, and you're a political they them. Now, what happened when you did that?
In terms of what?
So,
like with
going
my
from
life?
leaving the Democratic Party, and then you were independent for a little while. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
did you join the Republicans, or did you not?
I did. I am a begrudging Republican.
Yeah, but you don't like them either, right?
I'm a self-loathing Republican.
So it's not like political parties here where you actually just join. You have to actually join the party. It's more that you register.
Yeah. So here's the thing. I would have remained an independent, except it's different in every state. In New York and a lot of states like it, you lose your right to vote in primaries if you're not a Democrat or Republican.
Yeah.
And you know what? Now that I'm saying that, I think, now that I'm thinking about it, I think I would have gone Republican anyway, because I view what I think and what I believe with it to be a bit different than most other people, in that I'm sort of not looking at where the parties are now. I'm looking at where they will be in 5 to 10 years from now. And I think that there's such a wonderful, amazing opportunity to change the Republican Party so that it really stands for something, and to make it take up issues and people who have just been left in the dust by Democrats. So I want to be part of that change. I think the Democrat Party is beyond salvation. There's nothing they're doing that's positive. I think, especially and one thing that really speaks to this, I think, is their policies in terms of like the Black community, where Democrats' policies, I think, are just inherently toxic. And look at the results. They have 100% control of all of these cities. Nothing changes. Nothing ever gets better. They still have all these problems after 30, 40 years of them running it. So they have bad ideas, but Republicans have no ideas. Republicans do absolutely nothing. So
yeah, well, that's what conservative people are, is that everything's fine as it is, right? That's what conservatism is, really.
I'm not a conservative, so
yeah, yes, some middle ground between burning it all to the ground and doing nothing.
Absolutely.
That's funny. So but because I think this is where I think I need to try and get this message out here, because I'm a member of the Labor Party here. I'm a former Green. This is how left I am, right? I used to be in the Greens, and I still believe my politics align with, quite left, right? but I'm seeing this wokeness erode everything that and become the oppressive forces that I joined up those parties to fight.
Yeah.
Did that come out correctly? I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Sometimes my brain works faster than my mouth.
Same.
But I think I joined off the back of the no war movement. Right. Post 9/11. Right. I was in the Labor Party. 9/11 happened. The Greens led the no war movement. I then moved to the Greens. I then got fed up with the Greens because they can't organise to save their lives, and then went back to the mainstream Labor Party. Right. That's roughly in line with the Democrats in the US, right? Center left, right? With some mental people on the left that were always at the fringes. They've always been there. The green-haired fuckwits have always been in every political party. What's astonished me is that they've gotten power.
They've gotten all the power.
And I don't know about you, but I think their ability to organise online while Gen X were asleep was probably part of it.
And while the right was asleep also.
Seriously, as an organisational thing for politics, I think that they dismissed it as not real life.
Yeah.
And they still do.
Mean, that's what don't get me started on, especially and just be clear, I'm not talking about people watching this or viewers just but I'm talking about powerful, rich people who hate this shit and want to make a change. They don't fund anything. No. They don't do anything. They're only concerned about getting, keeping illegal immigration and having their cheap labor. That's all they care about. Yeah. They're not funding things. And while the right was sitting on their hands doing jack shit nothing, over the past couple decades, the radical left has been taking over academia, the media, culture, Hollywood, every institution in this country, corporations, corporate boards.
Yeah.
Where the hell have you people been? Welcome to reality.
Yeah.
So, believe me, there are a lot of people on the right who are Republicans that their career is telling Republicans what they want to hear. Oh, I am not one of those people. So no. It is my goal to change this bullshit party.
So why did you not try to change the Democrats? I'm just curious about that. Because I'm still very much in the
saying, why didn't you try to? It's like saying, why didn't you try to change Hitler? No, not that they're Hitler. That's a bad example. Why didn't you try to change Charles Manson? Right? Some things are just beyond salvation, and it's just. I think the lying is what gets me. Is that every day it's a different. They just have no relationship with the truth. They have no relationship with reality. There's nothing. There's no saving them at this point. And I think. And here's the thing. Here's why I say I'm not a conservative, because
is there a sensible left still, or have they all gone?
I think the sensible left are people who are just whispering in little corners and then post a black square on Instagram. That's the sensible left. They're cowards, just like a lot of the sensible right.
Yeah. Well, that's
I don't know.
Extreme.
I think we need a balance between the liberal and the conservative. So it's not, I think we need that yin yang. But I genuinely think the left in the Democratic Party just needs to be destroyed so that it can be rebuilt and something can replace it. Because everything that they're doing is just, it seems like everything that they push is just so built on a foundation of lies and propaganda and myths and innuendo that it's just beyond salvation. Whereas I think alternatively with Republicans, I think there have been some really positive changes happening. And some of them have been happening on a cultural center, right? So I think what I'm trying to do is just harness that and bring that into the party more,
Yeah. What would win you back? This is a good question. What would win you back? Or is it too far gone? It's a hard question.
I think it's too far gone, to be honest.
I'm curious because, like I said, this feels like an abusive relationship, and at some point you just have to go, I can only be abused and called names and called patronized by some dude in a beard one too many times, right?
Yeah.
And I'm reaching that point where it's like where you just think I am evil and stupid. I can only be called that for so long, but my politics is I belong here. Like I've said, I'm not politically homeless. There's squatters in my house, right? This is something there's squatters, and
it's like that movie Mother where they've taken over your house.
They've taken they've taken exactly. And I sit there and I go, I'm not leaving because it annoys you that I'm here and they want us out, right? And that's where I sit there and I go, they want to take over. And I'm just going to sit there and be a pimple on their bum for the rest of time to fight for the left. And that's what I sit there and I go, what could win you back with the Democrats?
Even where they're,
Just
well,
generally.
I mean, I just don't see anything positive about it. Their
Mm,
policies are bad. Their ideas are bad. Their rhetoric is
mm,
dangerous. I just don't see anything positive. And even if you look at like the supposed split between the Democratic Party of the Bernie Sanders and Hillary types,
mm.
which aren't really all that far off, to be honest, I don't think. But
I'd like to tell
I
the
don't have
Americans you
anything.
actually have no real socialists. I'm saying they're all social democrats. They're not actual socialists.
Give it some time.
Oh no, but
I feel like the mask is
even
starting
woke
to come off.
socialists. They're not.
What's that?
Wokeism isn't socialism. It's neoliberalism. It's actually a morphed, weird
Yeah,
ass
that's true.
neoliberalism. It's not actually, if you actually,
Um,
the glaring thing missing from all of this is any Marxist analysis at all. They're all rich people that are doing this.
Exactly. Well, that's the thing. That's how manipulative this is. That's why, like, a perfect example of this, if you look at Black Lives Matter's platform, their list of demands, very few of them have anything to do with police brutality. It's abolish immigration laws, abolish fossil fuels, ban books, replace textbooks with textbooks written by far left activists. So this is what Democrats and the left do that is so genius, but is so evil, is that they fuse people's identities together with their partisan politics. So if you don't want to ban fossil fuels, if you don't want to ban books, oh, you're just a racist.
And if you suddenly do fall afoul of that, if you're someone like me, I actually talked about this yesterday, was leaving this it is very painful. It takes a long time because you do wrap so much of your identity in this, especially if you're political and in a political party. I'm just trying to defend Marxist principles from being fucking ruined by everyone because most people don't understand Marx. But, it's just because Marx is not a model. It's not something that you're supposed to implement ever.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah. But Marxists agree with that. Real Marxists agree that Marxism is an ideal. It's not something. It's a framework for critiquing capitalism. It's nothing else. But anyway, this is a bastardized, postmodern, weird thing that it's not.
Yeah.
And they've taken from Marx, like they have feminism, like they have LGBT, and wearing the same thing. They're wearing all these things like a skin suit, right?
I think when we talk about them as abusers, it's very accurate because for two reasons. So first of all, it's crazy to me that they somehow think that, first of all, over 8 million Obama voters voted for Trump in 2016, and I wasn't one of them. And most people in Walkaway didn't vote for Trump either last time. Many are going to this time.
Why is that?
What's that?
Nobody. And that was actually a moment for me where everyone was saying, not one person went, that's strange.
Yeah. I guess they became Nazis overnight.
They just called everyone stupid.
Yeah, or they were like, oh, they just hated a black president. I'm like, but they voted for him twice. So they voted against this rich white lady because they're racist.
Yeah.
But you can't think that. But I was just saying, another way that they're very much like abusers is that nobody stops to think when it comes to LGBT stuff. Nobody stops to think that every ounce of gay rights the last decade has simply been undoing Bill Clinton's policies. It was Bill Clinton that signed the ban on gay marriage, the ban on gay people serving the military, don't ask, don't tell, the ban on gay people donating blood. It was simply undoing that. And so here's the thing, is that Democrats were very anti-gay their entire. Joe Biden voted for the Defense of Marriage Act. They were very anti-gay their entire careers. However, the moment, oh, absolutely, and the moment that gay rights started polling at 55% was the moment they evolved. They suddenly all changed at the same time, and they didn't do very much even to facilitate that. It was the Supreme Court that legalized gay marriage, and a Republican was the deciding vote. However, that's wonderful and lovely that Democrats came to the party later than they should have, but still slightly before Republicans did. But this really is the mentality of an abuser, that just because somebody did this one nice thing for you this one time, that you owe them the rest of your life.
Yeah. And that it's about right?
What's
It's
that?
it's not about, it's just all branding and numbers, and that's why I
Yep.
find it quite funny to watch this implode, right? Because when you when you're talking about, let's say it's a community of fans, right? Your true fans never leave you if you're a good person and you're the and it's you. You know, the psychology of that is that they don't abandon you unless you really, really, really. Um, but those that are fair weather and those that are grifters, they don't have loyal fans. They have fickle fans, right?
Yeah.
And it feels to me like the Democrats have played way too much along woke nonsense, right? Watching
All
this play
all
out before, because I loved Elizabeth Warren beforehand. Before
Yeah, what the hell happened to her?
she just kind of veered off. And it shows that they're playing by numbers,
You know
right?
what's so
They're
funny
playing
is
by
that
polls because most people just go along with that bullshit because they don't want the hassle, right? They don't want the
yeah,
hassle of saying they don't agree with it. So it skews their polling. So they think it's popular, right?
yeah.
And it just
And
goes,
they can't look to social media and see that it's not
yeah,
because so many people are banned and and it's so rigged.
yeah, yeah.
What I think is interesting about her, what I think is interesting about Elizabeth Warren is I was so certain that she was going to be the nominee
Yeah.
because she had everything set up. She just had to do nothing. All she had to do was ride the middle and be the person who can unite the two sides.
Yeah.
But she decided she was going to try to out Bernie and be the most woker than thou person.
Oh,
It's like she snatched defeat from the jaws of victory.
it's one of those things. It's not ha ha funny. It's fucked up funny.
Yeah,
That these are the choices that you guys of 328 million odd people, though that's the pool of
I
talent
know.
you have, right? Surely you can do
I
better,
know.
right? That's
No, but that's the thing is like, look, Democrats had like 107 candidates running. Not one of them was suitable. I mean, other than the people other than the wrong thinker like Tulsi Gabbard. But
yeah,
in terms of the ones who were approved by them, they didn't have one suitable candidate. So I don't think that that's about the candidates. Then it's their ideas that are the problem.
yeah, yeah. It's just very interesting. I haven't been
Yeah.
paying attention to the chats, so
Oh,
this,
sorry, me neither. I've never used this one
yeah,
before.
this podcast is very much not about chats. It's just you and me having. For those, I'll read them later. Is there anything else that you'd like to tell Australians?
Oh,
Listen to the American culture wars. Give us a warning. Give us a warning.
I want to go to Australia. Hi, Australia. I do have an Australian who I want to visit. So yeah, I want to visit Australia.
Really?
Yeah, no, don't fall into the trap that we've fallen into. Stand up against this shit. It infects everything. It destroys everything that it takes root in. And you know, people just need to be a little courageous and stand up to this. And you know, you're going to get some pushback. Who
Yeah.
cares? We
Yeah.
just keep getting acclimated to more censorship, to more encroachment on our liberties, to more control. And pretty soon, what's going to be left?
Mm. We're
And
seeing.
for me personally, I would just say if anyone is on Twitter, please tweet hashtag free Mike Harlow.
Yes.
My handle is at Mikey the Harlow. So that's the thing. Like I said, conservatives don't do fucking jack shit anything. So
No.
it's been really hard trying to get any of them to paying attention to it or anything like that. So you guys can tweet that and do everything I can to fight it. And you know,
And for
it's
those
really
who have
hard, but
one or two synapses
determined.
left in their brain, it's okay to disagree. It's okay to politically disagree and still talk. And what is happening to
Yes,
Mikey
thank
is,
you.
regardless of politics, this is not tribal. It's just wrong and it's just unfair. And even if you don't want to defend J.K. Rowling because that's insane, even if you don't want to get into the thick of it, defend Mikey because it's not right. and
Thank you.
that's the thing that we should be doing is, especially those on the left who are still reasonable and still fucking sane, is to stay and fight for people's right to speak, even if we don't agree, right? And that's the thing. And that's the thing. That's my fight, which is the second that
Absolutely.
and coming after comedy, coming after YouTubers, you know, they're coming after, like, it's just
Everything now. Every show is getting canceled. Everyone's losing their job. I look at I don't know if you guys have that in Australia, but here it's called Entertainment Weekly, and it's just like news about movies and stuff.
Yeah.
I clicked on it today, and everything is just social justice this, and this thing's canceled, and this one's fired, and black people this, and LGBT people. Every single one. I'm like, I just want to know if the trailer for Search Party came out. Jesus.
Yeah, and you know, like 20 years ago, when this like the 9/11 hysteria, the moral panic after that happened, right, with online, the Dixie Chicks were the sacred cow. There are a couple of sacred cows, and it was French fries and the Dixie Chicks, right?
Right, freedom fries.
But
Bring back freedom
those two standouts. Now we can't keep up. It is literally. Look. We've been streaming for an hour and a half, right? I reckon I could see that it's a 20-minute cycle now of the mob. They move on so fast and so quickly that this is not now. It is actually normal. This is a banality of evil where you just start accepting, oh, that's cancelled, that's cancelled, that's cancelled, that's cancelled. That's not normal.
No.
It's not normal to be wearing masks. These are scary things, okay? Yeah. And we need to acknowledge and not normalize it in our minds and go, okay, this is not normal. This is not okay. This is not the world we want it's not the world I want for my sons. And
I genuinely believe that it is not most people who buy into this shit, but the problem is the number of people who won't speak up. The problem is the silent majority. There's a massive gap between the people who are against this and the people who will speak up against it. So everyone needs to,
all of us.
Yeah, everybody, if you are against this shit, speak up. You will have people, you'll get pushback, but you will also have so many people who will have your back. Contact me. Contact all of us.
Contact me, and
we've got you.
Yeah, exactly. There are people that have your back, and it's going to be horrible for a little while. Right, despite what we said, it's going to be uncomfortable.
But this is worse.
It's predictable.
That's what I've been trying to remind. So I've been really having a really difficult week or two with this shit. Just seeing somebody who found out who I am and then didn't want anything to do with me. So I've been really struggling. But what I keep trying to remind myself is that this sucks. This shit is miserable. I'm not going to lie to you. It's horrible. However, the alternative is a million times worse.
Yeah. And it's the right thing to do. And you will always feel I'd rather, I've said this before, if me just speaking like this is hate speech, then put me in jail because I'm already in prison, right? You're already dead. The second that they may as well come for you. And that's the thing, right? And I'm not being dramatic when I talk about this because this slippery slope that we're on is happening. Right, and we have about 6 months to turn this around.
Yeah, I agree.
Right, and it's crazy.
And that's why I've been saying, and as somebody who did not vote for Trump last time, this election coming up in America has absolutely nothing to do with whether or not you like Trump. You got to vote for him. I mean, what's the alternative? A man with dementia who's voted for every.
I'm also scared about that. Not that I'm not scared about because better the devil you know, right? That's one of those things, right? But I'm just saying the left argument, better the devil you know, right? Rather than the devil you don't know. I just feel that there is a greater threat right now, and that is the reaction. Like if you're not on Twitter and don't see how people have lost their minds.
Yeah. And how they're in
Nazis under every rock. And the TERFs are coming. I'm seriously, let's talk about TERFs for a minute, right? They seriously think that the TERFs are hiring hitmen on the dark web.
My friend Ariel Scarcella renamed TERF. It was, what was it? Trans-embracing reasonable feminist.
Yeah,
I
and
like that.
It's tired of explaining reality to fuckwits. That's another one.
I love that. I'm going to take that up.
Yeah, but it's ridiculous. But it's just, I hope that most people are seeing this stuff. Now, we've been talking about the symptoms for a couple of years now, right? We've been warning, and now
around you now.
You are seeing this. And most people are like faulty towers. Seriously, guys, right? No, these things.
In the UK also, Little Britain is taken down. Every show of their history now is gone. Some
of the greatest comedy, when they go for comedy, that means that it doesn't start. It moves to history books. It moves to other things. Comedy is the canary in the mine for everything, right?
Yeah.
And if that means vote, I'm actually very grateful that I don't have to vote in the US election, to be honest with you. But we're okay here. I just think that the left here aren't aware of how insidious a lot of this stuff is, right? And how we're not far from it.
No, because all they care about is the social pressure. What I would say here is, for me, this is the number one issue that's deciding my vote, is that right now you have every single powerful entity in this country, except for the government, but you have every powerful entity, from corporations, the media, big tech, every corporation, academia, every school, the entertainment industry, everything, all in alignment with one party, all pushing the same political party, all pushing for more censorship, all pushing for more control, all pushing the same ideology.
The same.
Can you imagine if we then put the government in alignment with that?
Yeah.
It would be the end of having any rights. So I will vote for whoever the hell I need to stop that from happening.
Yeah.
Especially when the person who would bring that about has voted for every war of the last 40 years, enacted. I mean, you're going to talk, this is the mental gymnastics they do, that you're going to go out there and be protesting against policing while saying to vote for the person who was one of the architects of mass incarceration, of the war on drugs, who Joe Biden wrote so many of these crime bills that there's literally a video of him. There's literally a video of him on the Senate floor talking about how proud he is of a crime law that he passed. And he goes, the only thing we don't do in here is hang people for jaywalking. So that's your beloved Democratic Party right there.
Very funny.
That's your Black Lives Matter party.
Yeah, it feels like a death. It really does feel like I've left and and I'm not leaving, because I think I still have some hope for Australian politics, that we're just a little bit different. But I'm interviewing you as some American people as a warning, because we tend to inherit a lot of this cultural stuff, right? And it's happening here as well. So you're seeing the symptoms, right? And but yeah, what's happened to Mikey's fucked. So get on Twitter and do that, and do what you can there.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it, because like I said, it's hard to, not everyone wants to speak up.
Thank you for being my first guest on this.
Yes, I'm honored.
Thing that I'm doing. I'd like to do it again. Let's talk about, I'd like to talk about more joyful things at some point.
But at the moment, it feels like there's a lack thereof.
I don't think we're going to be running out of verboten things to talk about.
Seriously.
For a while.
That's a great title too. I love it.
I know, I'm pretty proud of it. So, this one appears on my YouTube, but there will be a one with graphics and all that on the other channel. So, but do feel free to like and subscribe and all that terrible hack. That's stuff that I hate doing.
No, I do too. But
ask people.
You'll do it.
You guys know where to go. Go to my website. All right. Hang on. I'm using a different thing. I'm not using OBS, so I fucking don't know how to do this. Look, you can do that and follow me, and then I'll from here. Okay, I'll put some show notes and shit. But my tayasmith.com.au and all of that sort of business. I'll set my quality production values. Hang on, fucking retard. Okay. All right. Thank you, Mikey. It was lovely to talk.
Thank you so much for having me. You're the best. Good luck with your show. It's going to be amazing.
See, this is two people having a conversation with, we actually disagree on some stuff, and it's great, and we're fine.
And that's wonderful.
Like each other.
Yes.
Huh?
It's ridiculous.
Oh, okay.
Thank you so much for having me, though. This was great.
No worries. Have a great day. Bye.
Bye.